All right. Thanks everyone for being here. My name is Micah Abbott. I'm a engineering manager at Red Hat. This is things I wish I knew when I became a manager. I did this talk in Brno with my coworker Greg, who used to be my manager, but he couldn't make it, so it's just me today. A little bit about me up top. I've lived in New England all my life. I have no formal training with computer science or anything. Actually graduated with a psychology degree. 10 years ago, I joined Red Hat as a quality engineer, and about three and a half years ago now, I started doing people management. I've been in these places before. I've talked about quality engineering. I've made up talks about using psychology to build teams, and even talked about Fedora Silverblue before that was a big thing. So this is going to be a little rocky because usually there's a back and forth with me and Greg. So now I'm taking on all of it. So bear with me a little bit. We're going to do a couple of topics, notably first off, like what to expect on your first 90 days to maybe 6 months as a new manager. Afterwards, we'll talk about managing teams as a unit versus individuals on your team. And then you have to remember about you. You're still a person. You have to care about how you move through this space. So the big disclaimer is that this is a big struggle for everybody. Even yesterday, I was talking with director and senior director levels at Red Hat who were like, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing either. So it made me feel a lot better as a new manager to hear that, oh, these people who have hit this level, that they're still struggling with it. So I'm going to give my perspective on this experience. It's not going to match everybody's, but hopefully it's useful. So those first couple of days or first couple of months, there's no manual. When I joined when I started as a manager, there was no book that they handed me and saying, this is how you do the job. It was just me emulating what I saw from other managers, other mentors, learning from mistakes, and just trying to keep my head above water as you go through your day. So there's annoying stuff that you'll first get exposed to is every HR system is terrible. They haven't built one that is fun to use. And you'll be using it a lot because now you have to approve everything. PTO, budget, salary, raises, access to this Amazon AWS account. It's always approvals, always approvals. And then everything you learned last year is going to change because somebody has a bright idea. This is going to make us more efficient, faster, better, stronger. So change is constant. There is going to be some weird and uncomfortable stuff that you are not going to be used to, most likely. Number one is money. A lot of people get really icky when you talk about money, but now you're in charge of telling people you're getting a bonus, you're getting a salary increase, or you're not getting a bonus salary increase. So you have to get comfortable with those types of conversations. And those initial one-on-ones, most of the time you're going to be walking into a team who don't know you, you don't know them, and you're going to have to start to build up that relationship with them, both as a whole and as individuals. And that's going to be a little weird because you got to figure out, does this person like to talk about work all the time? Do they want to talk about what happened on the weekend? What's their vibe? Figuring that out. And then at least for me, I was coming from engineering into a management position. I still had that technical edge that I thought I could use. And so I was trying to still get in the day-to-day, making decisions, trying to solve problems. And that's just going to ultimately slow you down. And it gives you opportunity to do things differently, like thinking strategically. So now you have this opportunity to not worry about the day-to-day decisions. You can think about, where am I going to take this team? How am I going to grow this individual's career? What is the vision for the next 6, 9, 12 months? These are all things that sound good on paper. I know what I'm doing, but I promise you I'm still struggling with all of this, and I don't know if I'm being successful. The really good stuff is when you get to tell somebody, hey, you worked hard, your performance has been great, here's a bonus, here's a promotion, here's more money. I haven't met anyone who has been upset to hear that they're getting more money, so that's a really good feeling. One of the surprising good parts of this job that I didn't have any clue about was learning more about how that company operates. As I said before, I came from engineering, so I have this very engineering-centric view of like, we run the whole company. Everyone else is just here to serve us. And that's not exactly true. Especially now as a manager, I'm talking to people in HR, finance, legal, sales, support, and you get to see how all the pieces come together to move the company forward and upward. So, talking about teams. One of the best pieces of advice is to really understand what your team is working on and why they're working on it. And being able to tie that to company strategy as well. Because you will end up in a room with somebody who is either a higher pay grade or has questions about what your team's doing, more senior leadership or whatnot. And if you can't describe like what value you're bringing to either the organization or the company as a team, it's not going to look good on you as a manager. It's not going to look good on your team as well. And be aware that this story is going to change. Like you have to evolve it as conditions change. We're all now adapting our stories to AI. Like, how does that change what I'm working on? How does that change what my employees are going to spend their time on? One of the other things I've encountered managing this team is that you're going to get challenges on where you want to take the team versus where everyone else wants to take the team. Especially if you have really talented engineers within your team, they're going to be like, I have this great idea. It's going to be the next big thing. I just need to dedicate 3 months of my time to build it. And you have to put the stop on that kind of conversation pretty quickly and redirect some of that energy towards goals and priorities that you'll see as part of your strategy. Maybe you can say carve out 5% of your time to go do investigative work on that thing. And then you have other teams coming to you saying like, I think your team would be great to solve this problem that I have. And it may be you have to have that conversation. Does this make sense for us? Is it going to deliver value for my team, their team, the company? Maybe they just want to give boring work to your team. So you have to be able to navigate those kind of conversations as well. And then finally, like one of the things I've seen with my team is figuring out if we're working on the right things at the right time. If you have a really strong strategy from the business unit or from product management, it's a lot easier because you can line up those goals on your own roadmap and your own priorities. If there's a little bit of wiggle room in that kind of strategy and you don't have that clear vision, you now have to take on that responsibility of, can I do something to change what we're working on to continue to show that our team has value, that I'm bringing value as a manager as well. Within every team, you're going to have leaders, and you need to identify leaders that are going to be useful towards the goals of you as a manager and you as a team. Some team leaders are better than others. Some may be people leaders, and they can help bring everyone together towards one goal. Other people may be technical leaders. They'll be able to solve big problems, generate architecture documents, and help set a vision for some of the solutions you're building. Learning how to delegate those types of problems to the right people helps you do your job better as a manager. It helps the team operate smoother, and ultimately will get you closer to success. So we talked about teams, but now we have to talk about getting to the individuals, because honestly, that's where I spend most of my time as a line manager. I'm talking more to my individual engineers than an organization. As you go up higher on that career path, I think this will change, but again, this is my perspective. So probably the most important tool that I have in my toolbox as a manager is the one-on-one. If you are in this room and you have a manager who is not doing one-on-ones with you on a regular basis, be very concerned, because that manager is probably not doing their job, and they don't know what you need as an individual to be successful. These conversations are very honest and vulnerable when I have them. I try to make space for the other person to tell me what's bothering them, what they're interested in. Is there anything happening at home that's going to affect their performance? These are all things that will again, going back to the uncomfortable part, will be uncomfortable the first time, but hopefully as you learn what they want to talk about, I have an engineer on my team, they just want to talk about work. They don't want to talk about what they did on the weekend. They just want to talk about what's my next priority, how do I get to the next goal that I'm shooting at. And then there's another engineer or other engineers I have on my team who we spend an hour, hour and a half just talking about what's going on in the world, and then we're scrambling to figure out, oh, there are priority items we have to discuss about goals and things like that. Building up that picture of your individuals helps you steer them in the direction towards success. Do they want that promotion next? Do they need a raise because they feel they're being underpaid? What opportunities are available to help them feel like they're providing value and succeeding as an individual in the company? And then the final, the thing I really want to focus on about the career path plans, those conversations are really super important. The sooner you have those with your managers or vice versa with your reports, again, the better you can kind of look for opportunities and steer people towards training other pieces of work that might advance their career further. So yeah, it can be awkward because you may have someone who says, I'm ready for a promotion. Why aren't you promoting me? I'm ready to get promoted. And you have to sort of explain to them, this is a complicated process. It's not something we just flip a switch on any day and you get promoted. So having those conversations, setting clear horizons, clear expectations, tying them to competencies. In our company, we have a whole set of engineering competencies for each level of engineering. Whether you're an associate engineer or a distinguished engineer, there are expectations and behaviors that we expect. So having those kind of conversations is very helpful. One of the things that's also I find very important to discuss during these conversations is that it's a three-pronged approach to promotions and career path. There's the things that the individual can control in terms of their performance, their skills, their training, that kind of stuff. There's what I can control as a manager in terms of available work, opportunities, perhaps stretch assignments, that kind of thing. And then there's the things that we can't control. Neither of us control. Does the company have any money? Are they doing promotions this round? What's the budget look like? Are they doing salary increases? All those things. That's kind of the money aspect that depends on corporate performance and all those other things that we just get told, here's your money. So it helps to understand how each part of that process affects the overall path towards the promotion. When we pitched this talk, we said we're going to talk about mistakes. Greg and I were mistakes we made. So this is one of the bigger mistakes that I've made, which I think is very informative in terms of career paths. So there's somebody on my team. They're a senior level engineer. They're doing well in their job, but they were displaying that they were very good at sysadmin tasks, which is helpful. We're an engineering team. We have to do sysadmin tasks occasionally, a lot of software development. And it looked like he was doing it well, and he enjoyed it. So during one of the conversations with another manager peer who had a team full of sysadmin types, he mentioned that he had an opportunity. And I thought, I have someone on my team that could really help you. They like sysadmin stuff. They're familiar with your team. They've actually worked with your team. They're heavily involved with the open source community where this other sysadmin team worked. This is a perfect fit. So I go back to my associate and I say, guess what? I have this great opportunity for you. There's this opening on the team over here that does sysadmin stuff. It aligns up with what you're interested in. What do you say? Aren't you excited? And the first thing he said to me was, are you trying to get rid of me? And I realized then that I had failed to do this advice I had given all of you about talking about career paths. What I didn't understand is he wanted to continue on the software development path, and he wanted to stick with our team because he liked the people, he liked the work, he liked his manager up until that point. So I spent the rest of that one-on-one trying to repair that relationship, and then the following one-on-ones, repairing that relationship, repairing that trust, and building a better sense of where he wanted to go and what he wanted to do with his career. So please don't make that mistake. If you're a manager in this room, make sure you know where your people want to go. So kind of tied to this is talking about performance with your individuals. This is probably one of the hardest parts of being a manager is you will ultimately end up with somebody on your team who isn't pulling their weight. And it's your job to talk to them and with an open and honest conversation about how they're not meeting expectations, how they're failing to keep up with the competencies, and figuring out a way to correct that. So the best thing to do is do that right away as soon as you see it, because the longer you let it drag on, it's going to affect your team. It's going to affect the performance and the goals. I found that when you have somebody like that on your team, the other people on the team notice. And they won't say something right away, but eventually they'll get to a breaking point, and then it becomes a real problem. Because now you've got someone who is dragging down not only just the one piece of work or a couple of pieces of work that they have assigned to them, but like everyone is now concerned about the overall health of the team. So setting those expectations early is important as part of those one-on-one conversations. But if you haven't done it, like you have to admit you're human. You made a mistake. Own up to it. Be clear that like this is what is going to happen going forward, and try to find that path towards success again and better performance. So Greg usually did this part of the talk, but I'm actually going to talk about a good time where I did this. Where I did have an individual on my team. I noticed their performance was starting to drag a little bit, and I sat down, kind of formulated my thoughts. So I wasn't doing it off the cuff. I had data and bullet points and competencies to talk about, expectations to talk about, scheduled a meeting with them, had a very frank conversation, and sure enough, they were like, "Oh, I get it. I understand. Let's work to fix this." So we set up a plan how to get him back to being performant. And ultimately, he's now one of the people on our team that's leading feature development tasks. So you can turn things around as long as you address it quickly with, I think, a clear discussion. If anyone's taking crucial conversations, big proponent of that. Like I think it helps not only managers but individual contributors. So look that up if you want to. Hopefully, this is a story of where it went well. I've heard other stories where it doesn't go well, and you have to then get HR involved and do things like corrective action plans or performance improvement plans, and that's less fun. All right, so you spent all this energy thinking about the people on your team, the team as a unit. But what about you? You're still a person, right? You have a career path. I mean, you don't just step into the management role and ignore the goals you have. So make sure you're having those conversations with your leadership about where you want to go, what kind of goals you have. And it's okay if you don't know right away. I mean, especially as a new manager, I was just trying to tread water. So I didn't have any long-term goals other than get through the next quarter without, feeling like I'm going to get fired. And also focus on your own well-being. I think at least in Red Hat, one of the biggest reporters of burnout are the frontline managers because they're doing so much. A lot of the responsibilities end up on their shoulders. So trying to make time to take care of yourself is important. One of the ways I do that is through a very healthy network of peers, mentors, stakeholders, collaborators. So I'm able to have conversations with people I trust, people who are going through something similar, people who have gone through something similar and kind of will tell you it's going to be okay. Like, here's how I approached this problem. Here's how I navigated the situation. It's also important to find mentees. Like, you've now stepped into this management role, and you may have senior engineers or other people on your team or outside of your team who are interested in management, share your experience. Like, talk to them about what they're going through, what their goals are. They might even have technical problems that you can say, oh yeah, I remember I did this when I was an engineer, and you can help them solve that. And then as you have all these conversations with your stakeholders, your mentors, your peers, some are going to be more valuable than others. I mean, there are some people I've met that I talk to regularly for years and years and years, and there's other people that I talk to a couple of times, and then 6 months later, we don't talk anymore because it wasn't valuable, and that's okay. It's not everyone's going to bring the not every conversation, not every relationship is going to have a two-way street of value. So that's basically the end. The keywords here: no manual. It's a big struggle for all of us. So if you feel like you are interested in being a people manager and have questions, I guess now I can try to answer some of those. So thank you.
All right. Any questions? I can bring the microphone over. Oh.
So the managers are doing too much, and the span of control is about to double, or has. What's going to happen?
Yeah, so this might be a little Red Hat specific, I'm going to guess. We are talking about increasing the span of control, which is the amount of people that report to a single manager. I think the ideal solution is we have more people doing the stuff that managers usually do, whether it be like, at least in the topic of like Agile or Scrum adoption, like we'll have Scrum Masters, we'll have product owners. So the ideal solution is having a well-formed team that can do all the functions of a team, whether it's, like I said, some of the product stuff, product management stuff, and hopefully that doesn't land on the managers. I don't think that I have a very good solution to that. I mean, I'm in a position where I have a Scrum Master on my team, but I don't have a product owner, so a lot of that still lands on my shoulders and shared with some of the senior technical leaders on my team. And as a new manager, it's been kind of frustrating, I will say. But that's one of the unfortunate or fortunate ways, fortunate realities of being a manager is that you are the buck stops here, as they say.
If I can add some flavor to that.
Please.
We're going to do the same thing that we do all the time, which is our best. We're going to try and make sure that when something does go wrong and something catches fire, we put out the fire and we figure out a way to prevent it from catching fire in the future. If span of control is going up, which there is talk of that, it's not across the board. Everybody just gets a lot more direct reports. We're going to do it where it makes sense, and where it breaks something, we're going to fix it. So I don't think our final state is going to be what we have been hearing for the past 6 months or a year. I think every time we make a change like this, we're going to see what happens and adjust and figure it out. I have a lot of faith in our management chain to do that and to help managers with that.
That's why Jeff's a director.
For 2 more weeks.
Well, I didn't.
Cool. Any other questions? Got a few more minutes.
I'm not manager, but maybe just to add from my view experience, it might be a bit strange. I'm also game master for Dungeons and Dragons, and I think it might be very close sometimes when you manage team, when you manage players, and you have some strategic direction you want to be. And one comment that I might add, and you might fix me, that building trust is very important. Like, for example, in Dungeons and Dragons, you have rulings that you made about some situation and you need to be consistent, because if you are not consistent, players stop trust you. And I think probably for management development teams or like people teams, it might be also important to like deliver on your promises like very consistently. I understand it's not always possible, but I think like it's quite important. Like when you say some decision about project, about something, career path or like promotion or like anything. So I think like for building trust, it might be one of the key points in my opinion. But yeah, if you have any comments.
I think that's great feedback. I mean, consistency is definitely key, especially when you're having conversations about expectations and competencies and stuff. Like having that sort of structured, written down guide towards that conversation or that expectation is very helpful. And we also have to have room for flexibility because those things may change. But as long as you're clear, I think the subtext to what Jeff was saying is like also like being honest and open and showing empathy and having a space for the employees or the associates to come to you and talk about why they might not agree with how things are changing and whatnot is also valuable. But yeah, great comment, great feedback. Jeff, you have the mic again.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
So if there's somebody that is in their early stage of their career and they want to explore management, what do you suggest they do?
Ooh, great one. So one, I'd start with talk to your manager and express that interest and work with them to formulate a plan where they can assume more leadership type responsibility, whether it's leading feature development, setting a path towards them becoming tech lead or some other team lead type of role within the team, and also being open with them that the position they're looking for or the interest they have may lie outside the team. You don't want to. I think one of the things I skipped as I was going through this is talking about career paths and identifying leaders. Like, you want to have a succession plan in place, and the last thing you want to do is just end up with a senior engineer, principal engineer that gets thrust into management because they were just the top of the food chain. You want to have someone who's interested in that. So at least starting with a conversation, I think, and finding those opportunities where they can step into more leadership roles would be the path I would point them down.
One point I'll just make is that if you created a talk that was everything I learned as a DM for Dungeons and Dragons that made me a better manager, I would watch the hell out of it.
Yeah.
So keep that one in your mind because I love that idea.
Not even a better manager, just like, this is how Dungeons and Dragons helped me with my job. It'd be awesome.
Yeah,
I agree.
100%. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Any other questions? Great. Let's give a big hand.
Thanks, everybody.